everybody, and welcome back to the REDX Podcast. I'm excited you're joining us today because we've got a returning guest who absolutely crushed it last time. Please welcome back our guest, Shannon.
Hi.
Shannon is the visionary CEO and founder of Open Houses Direct, the only patented open house management and lead conversion platform that verifies visitor information in real time, giving agents accurate data, safer events, and a smarter way to follow up. With over 20 years of real estate experience, Shannon has perfected the process of turning open house visitors into verified, ready-to-buy clients. Her system helps agents eliminate fake check-ins, track every lead efficiently, and convert more conversions into closing. As the creator of Open House Masters, the #1 online open house coaching program, Shannon combines her expertise in technology and training to teach real estate professionals how to master open houses from start to finish, from attracting high-intent buyers to executing seamless follow-ups that drive results. Thousands of agents have transformed their open houses from Shannon's proven strategies and tools, gaining confidence, credibility, and consistent closings. Her mission is clear: to elevate the open house experience through innovation, verification, and conversion, helping agents grow their business and love every open house they run. We'll be talking more about how the market has shifted, the strategies they're using today, and what advice she'd have for agents who are looking to elevate their open house experience. So Shannon, welcome back. It's great to have you here again.
No, thank you. Great to be here.
All right, Shannon, let's go ahead and jump in and get started with this background. What inspired you to build an open house app for agents? And what problem were you seeing in the residential real estate market that you felt wasn't being solved?
You know, I was a very busy agent in 2015 and 2016. I was a top producing agent here in Arizona, and I had multiple houses on the market. Everybody wanted me to hold the open house. All my clients were like, "Are you holding an open house?" I had no way in my brokerage, which was very large in Arizona. I had no way of finding agents to hold my open houses. And I thought, this is crazy that we don't have a system where, as an agent wanting to find agents that want to hold open houses within my own brokerage, that I just had an easy to access in real time platform, right? So I created that part of it. And then I kept having these open houses with so many people that would come in, and I had the archaic paper sign-in sheet, which I see even now today. And I would have it out, and I would try, and I would either try to get people to the sign-in sheet, or they would never make it in there, or I get really busy and I wouldn't have a time to even have a conversation with them, or they would sign in and I couldn't read their handwriting, or they would give me the wrong information. And I was like, there has to be a better way, a system where I can get everybody checked in that comes into my open house. It's very seamless, it's verified, and it's fast. And also, I need a way to follow up with them. So keeping a system of every single open house, there's so many reasons why agents need to keep track of every single person they've ever met in person. And this is why I created the entire platform. It helps agents advertise available open houses that they want to hold open. Agents looking for open houses can find them. Then they also have a check-in app where they can check people in and actually verify their contact information upon walking in. It is not a QR code, and it is not an iPad check-in, and it is not a sign-in sheet. It is literally a greeting. You capture their information. You know it's instantly verified, and then you have a way to follow up. You can also take notes on them as well. Our follow-ups are only as good as our personal notes. And if we get 20 people coming into an open house and we have no idea who's who, then our follow-up is so generic, we don't really stand out, right? So it gives you a way to, in your hand, take notes on a conversation really quick. And I don't care if it is what the couple looks like at the door, right? Because if you remember them by a face or by a shirt, a colored shirt, or they had the Seattle Mariners hat on or whatever, you'll remember the conversation, and then the follow-up becomes more personal. So that's how I came up, because all these problems were happening. And even now today, we don't have, and it kind of it actually baffles me. Like open houses we do have that, they do come from our listings that are in our MLS, but an open house is an event, and we can't put anything in our MLSs anywhere across the country about our open houses. And yet agents put so much time and energy into I do a lot of grand openings for my properties, and I can't put a grand opening in the MLS. I can't put that I'm having a coffee stand or a coffee truck and a hot cocoa bar and come on in and have charcuterie on me or whatever it is. And I really created the platform for that, is to have a way that agents can advertise their event. So direct to a consumer and create a marketing page for that.
I love that. I think that's super helpful. I do want to dive a little bit deeper into it, though. You did mention a couple of times, sometimes there's a traditional way of doing it, a way that agents still kind of do it. They haven't included much innovation. One thing I've heard from a lot of agents is they're frustrated by open houses. Some people don't like to do them. Do you think that traditional open houses are still relevant or are becoming relevant for real estate agents?
Yes.
What's kind of your response when you hear conversations like that?
I do open houses every weekend, and every single weekend in 2024 and 2025, I've had traffic, right? Because I market them the right way. I choose the times the right way. Like I have an entire system that I teach on all of that, right? What times to hold them, what time of the day, what time of the week, how to market them effectively so you get more unrepresented buyers. So since 2024, the percentage of people using open houses to begin their home search has gone up to 54%. And it is probably could be in part due to the NAR ruling, where now buyers have to sign a contract to see a house and they have to employ an agent. They never had to do that before. So our buyers could just go online and say, hey, I want to go see a house, and that they could go see a house and there was no obligation. Right now, there's an obligation attached to it. And our buyers know that. They can't just go see a house anymore without signing an employment agreement with agents. So they're really, yes, online is where they begin their home search. But what happens then online is they find out when the open houses are, and they go to the open houses. And they're coming in unrepresented, and being able to have the conversation with them in person as to why they don't want to do it on their own. And the number one reason is open houses work. I've sold more open houses this year from people coming into my open house than I ever have probably in 10 years. It's been unrepresented buyers looking on their own. They come in and they went on their own, and they are buying the house when they find it. They aren't hiring an agent before. It's kind of an interesting shift in our buyers, right? But when they do come in, and even now, only 10% of homes are ever held open on a weekend. That means 90% of our buyers, or 90% of the inventory, is never seen by buyers who are just relying on open houses. And it's up to 54% now of our buyers are attending them. And so when they do come in, problem is a lot of agents don't have a way of telling their sellers, of explaining to their sellers, hey, I have a system where I know you're uncomfortable with an open house because you don't want strangers in your house, right? I created a system where I tell every one of my occupied sellers, homes, that whether it's a luxury listing or a non-luxury listing, it doesn't matter. I have an open house every single weekend, the minute it goes active, and I tell them I have a system where I check in and verify every single person that comes in the door. And they allow me to do it because they're like, that's amazing. I've never heard of a system like that. It's they love it. And I usually get a buyer come in and buy it. Or they're interested, or I have multiple open houses. So there's a lot of reasons why a paper sign-in sheet in a day of technology is not the way to go. And the connection of having a buyer come in and meet you in person and being able to follow up with them is so valuable. And so when agents are frustrated and they don't like open houses, it's because they have a piece of paper in the kitchen and they get 8 to 10 people come in. Nobody makes it to the kitchen. and they didn't have that magical conversation that they think is going to happen the minute they meet them. And then all 10 people leave and they go, well, that wasn't a success, because they have no way to follow up with anybody. Right. And the conversations weren't genuine because all they were thinking about is how do I get their information? So the minute you shift that, and this sending them to a QR code or an iPad, you have this connection at the door that I teach, where they walk in the door, you greet them, you introduce yourself. I just need to get you checked in. It's on my phone. I just need your name and your phone number. Then I'll let you walk around. It's such a fast thing. And the clients I've converted this year, after I convert them, I tell them about the fact that I own a tech company too. And I go, you didn't even feel me checking you in at the open house, did you? And they go, we don't even remember you checking us in. Like, that's how seamless it is, right? And so that's where, when you create that, the environment becomes a lot more warm and welcoming for a buyer. You want a buyer to be in your open house as long as they want to be there comfortably. And a lot of buyers will hurry up and get in and out because they don't want to check in.
I love that. And as agents are like incorporating more of your technology or your strategy, what is a core mindset or core philosophy that you would recommend every agent should adopt when doing it, the open houses now?
It has to be mandatory that people check in. Like that, this is what I teach. And the agents that I have taught for the last 3.5 years that have adopted this, where it's mandatory check-in at the door. They don't have a check-in in the kitchen. They don't have a check-in on the way out, right? It's a check-in on the way in. It's not a registration. We're not sending them. Because when you connect with somebody at the door and you greet them and you know how to say their name, you know how to spell their name, you get their phone number, it texts them a code, they're instantly checked in. The conversation becomes so much more relaxed on both sides. And you're also running a safer open house for your client. And you can't sell the house if you can't follow up with every single person that comes in. Not necessarily to sell them on working with you. It's to get feedback for the seller. So if I have 10 people come in, I do not want them giving me feedback in front of another buyer, right? That's what we can't do at an open house. And that's where agents try and do that. And I've seen that go on where agents have said, oh my gosh, I was at this open house and this client, this buyer hated the house and they wouldn't stop talking. You can't say that, because another buyer comes in and they're hearing that and they'd be like, oh my gosh, I didn't really notice the smell, or I didn't notice that the walls are really short. You know, like, you don't want that to happen in the open house. So you really need to have a way to connect with every single person after. And if you send them to a piece of paper and you send them to an iPad, or, hey, would you go to that QR code and give me your information? You don't know their name. You don't know how to pronounce their name. You don't know how to spell their name. You really aren't going to remember who they are if at the end of the open house, all you have is a bunch of names. And you disconnect the connection you just made, right? It's like, look at where you go. When you go into a nice restaurant, they don't tell you to go to a QR code. Hey, would you go over there and sign in and then let me know, and then I'll see if our table's ready. Can you imagine going into a really nice restaurant and having them just like completely disconnect, and you're like, where, what? I have to do what? But they will say, welcome in. Let me get your name. I need your phone number to check you in, and then I will let you know when your table's ready. If you don't give them your phone number, you might not get a table. And so you don't even resist that. You go, oh yeah, of course I want a table. So here's my phone number. And I've had that happen many times at restaurants that are empty. I walk in and they go, let me get you checked in and then I'll seat you. And I'm like, and in my mind, I just go, well, why do you have to check me in? There's like 1,800 tables, right? And it's their system. And so if you don't follow the system, you don't get what you want. At open houses, when people come into my open house, I get 95% of people check in with me with verified contact information. And there's always a reason why I created this. There's always a reason after the open house that you will be like, oh my gosh, a neighbor comes in and says, I'm going to be putting my house on the market and it's a 4-bedroom and a pool, and the house I'm holding open doesn't have a pool, or it's only a 3-bedroom. And I had conversations. So like, we love it, but it needs another bedroom. We need another bedroom. And I didn't check them in. And now I know of a house coming up in the neighborhood that has another bedroom, and I have no way of reaching out to them. So everything I've created in my product literally was created out of a need for something that happened to me at an open house, whether it was safety, whether it was needing to follow up with somebody. Ironically, I had a client come into my open house. I had a conversation with them, and this happens all the time. Agents are going to totally resonate with this. I'm having a great conversation. I'm connecting, and a neighbor comes in, says, "Hey, I'm the neighbor, blah, blah, blah." And all of a sudden, in the middle of my conversation, the couple goes, "It was great meeting you, Shannon. We got your card. We got to go." I have no information on them. And they forgot their readers. And they were so nice. These glasses were not your regular, like, Amazon readers, right? They were obviously prescription. They were a really gorgeous pair. They were probably $500 if you buy really nice glasses, and they probably went around to open houses all day. And then at the end of the day, they're like, "Oh my gosh, where are my readers?" And I still have those readers from 10 years ago because I have no idea who left them at my open house. And this happens a lot. There's always a reason for us to follow up. And so the mindset, what I teach is that mindset shift. I'm going to check you in because I'm holding an event. This is my business. I'm not registering you. I don't need your email address. I just need to get your phone number so I track everybody that comes in today. Because there's always a reason why I might need to follow up with you,
Yeah.
And I don't get resistance, but it's all in the delivery, right? So
yeah, absolutely. So from this sign-in process to follow-up, what does a typical workflow look like for you when people aren't leaving their readers or something?
So what I do is our app and our website, we're automatically integrated with Lofty, Follow Up Boss, Wise Agent, and other CRMs are now adding into our platform. So you can either create a CSV file for everybody and put them into your CRM, or the ones that we're automatically connected to will go directly into your CRM and tag them. And it's such an easy process. You add the listing, you add the open house event. It creates a check-in system on your phone or your iPad or your laptop. Then after I check them in, I have a follow-up system for feedback, or because I take personal notes. When I teach agents across the country how to do open houses, the one thing that they say changed their entire business was the notes that they took. I teach them, every single person that comes in, not only do you check them in, but I want you to take a personal note on them. I want you to have a personal note on every single person, because your follow-up, if it's not personal, then you're going to be like everybody else. And you have to stand out from other agents because they are going to be going to open houses all day. And I have buyers say, "You're the only one that checked us in all day. And I'm the only one that followed up with them." I've had that. "You're the only agent that followed up," because I asked them why you were going to open houses for 3 days. I've had clients come in from town and they went to open houses. You're the only one that followed up. You're the only one that actually checked us in, but you're the only one that followed up with us. And my follow-up was a personal follow-up, right? I had a couple, for example, that was in town from Boston. They were moving here in June. They came into my open house in February. My follow-ups were like, I'm following the weather in Boston, right? So my texts are like, "Oh my gosh, I saw you guys just had a snowstorm. Are you guys okay?" And they're like, "Oh my God, we're great. Thank you for checking in," right? It's not like, "Are you coming to buy a house? When can I make money off of you?" It's like, "Oh my gosh, I'm really concerned. Like, are you guys okay? I heard you guys had this amazing flood or blizzard or whatever," right? And really, you make this connection with them, and then the conversations flow from there. But I think agents try and close too hard, too early, rather than just taking personal notes. And if you have a sign-in sheet of paper, you ain't going to be able to take notes because everybody's going to sign in. And also, the negative about a sign-in sheet is, let's say I have a really busy open house, right? And I don't make it mandatory that everybody sign in. So what if somebody comes in, I have an open house from noon to 3, from like 12 to 3, and it's 2:45. And I tell somebody, can you sign in on my sign-in sheet? And nobody's on the sign-in sheet.
I don't want to be the first.
Well, I don't want to be the first. Well, either there are two things, right? Either nobody came in, right? And it was completely dead, or nobody signed in. So either way, I'm not signing in, right? So you want an anonymous sign-in sheet. You want something hidden in your phone. You want to be able to take your own notes. That's another thing. You can't take notes on the sign-in sheet, because then if everybody else sees your notes, that's going to be weird. And we are getting back into those open houses that are really busy, right? And so we have to have a system to get everybody in, because a lot of agents get really frustrated with open houses because they think that they had 10 people come in and that should count as 10 leads. And they didn't check anybody in except for one. If you only check in one person out of 10 with a verified, with contact information in a way that you can actually follow up with them, that's one lead, not 10. And the cool thing about open houses as a new agent is the average, we have the highest conversion ratio of any other lead source other than a referral, right? A referral is the highest. It's actually 25%. Open houses are 10 to 1, 10% conversion ratio. Online leads are 100 to 1 up to 1,000 to 1, which means you have to get in front of 100 leads to convert one, right? That's a lot.
Yeah.
Open houses are 10, but a lead is only somebody you can follow up with. And you have to get in front of 10 open house leads and follow up with them in order to convert one. 10. So agents that adopt my program, all of a sudden they begin doing open houses. They begin checking people in, and their conversion ratios are 10%. They end up going from 0 sales to easily 2 sales a month, right? 24 homes a month, a year is actually doable just with open houses. And now you add social media, you add REDX, you add all these other products. Now you're up to 50 sales just like that. And you have a minimal cost per lead.
Interesting. I really love that. I feel like understanding the numbers behind your efforts, I think really helps motivate people to take the no's and to really deal with the discouragements better, because I would take 9 no's to get 1 yes if I knew that I was going to get that any day.
100%. 100%, right? That's what I teach agents. It's not the 9 no's. It's like anybody in sales will teach you. You have to be like, great, I know if I get in front of, and this is the national average of agents. Like, so what happens is if they only check in one person and they have 10 open houses over 10 weeks and they check in one at each one, right, with their little piece of paper, and it actually is real information, and they follow up, which never happens, right? It's going to take them 10 open houses to convert 1 lead. If you check in everybody at every open house every weekend and you get 10 a weekend, right, that's actually 40 leads a month. And if you convert 10%, that's 4 sales. That is doable. It's so doable because you met these in person. So when you get somebody that ghosts you or goes to another agent or doesn't call you back, you're like, that's okay. I only expect 1 out of 9. So that's my 8th. So now I'm on number 9. So I'm hoping my next one, and it's clockwork. It's absolute clockwork. And then when you get those, this is how the agents that I have in this program, this is how they just blow up, and they just go, because when you get a lead and you nurture that lead and you close that lead will send you 4 more people, right? Or you'll get another lead from that lead, and then you keep adding open house leads, and all of a sudden you're just like, it's just like this huge snowball. And I think the biggest frustration with agents is, how do I get leads? Because if you don't have any leads, you're not going to close homes. And if you're not going to close homes, you're not going to make any money. So combining open houses and open houses direct with like REDX, who does lead generation, and social media, all these systems should not cost you a lot of money. And they are so easy to implement. And all of a sudden your lead generation goes through the roof, your lead conversion goes through the roof, and you're not out thousands of dollars a month in lead gen fees for leads that don't even convert,
Yeah. Interesting. So when it comes to systems and data and integrations, how should agents think about tracking and analyzing open house visitor data? And what practices do you recommend to turn into converting leads other than what we've already talked about?
So what I love about Open Houses Direct, we have a way where we can track. It keeps every open house you've ever had in a database. We are not a CRM, we're a database, which means we have every single open house you've ever held, and it has every single person that has actually checked in at that open house. So over time, what's so great about that is if I get new listings or I get new open house opportunities in the same zip codes, right, that I've had these open houses, I can go back and I can say, and it's time stamped. So I can say, okay, I've held multiple open houses in this zip code, and I look at all my data and I can say most of my open house guests came in between 2 and 4. Even though my open house was from 12 to 4, everybody came in from 2 to 4. So now I know I should probably have my open house 1 to 4 or 2 to 4, because this is when all my visitors came in, right? So we have to be able to do that, because if you're having an open house in the morning at a neighborhood where all the open houses that you had, nobody came in the morning, everybody came in the afternoon, you need to be able to time it, because timing is everything for an open house. Timing and date.
Absolutely.
And knowing all of that. And I have agents who have had open house. I've overlapped with agents, and that this is such a testimonial where I've had an agent that I had an open house from 12 to 4. And the listing agent calls me and says, hey, by the way, I have another agent wanting to hold it open from 9 to 12. I said, okay, that's fine. And I get there, right? We overlap at 12 o'clock. It's like a shift change, right? And we overlap. I said, how was your open house? And he goes, nobody came in. It's super dead. So good luck. Right. And he leaves, and I am so busy. Like I am swamped busy. Like I've got 12 groups that came in. Right. That's an example of timing is everything, because he sat there for 3 hours, and maybe 9 to 12 is not the time for that community. If it's an older community, maybe a retirement community, and they want to be out and up earlier, maybe that would be a better morning one. But really knowing the times and being able, and all that data I can keep in my account, and it's in there forever. Like I have open houses in my account that I did 3 years ago. Right. And so it's amazing to see, because our times haven't really changed on the zip codes. Right. So when you're really focusing in on certain areas. And then also if I have an open house, if I have a neighbor call me, or I have somebody call me and say, hey, I met you at the open house. Would you come meet with me about putting my house on the market? I'm like, absolutely. Here are all the buyers I'm going to be calling the minute I get your listing agreement, because here's everybody that's come into my open houses in the last 2.5 months in this neighborhood. Right. So I can show that data. And we can't do that with a piece of paper. What am I going to do? Here's all my paper. Here's all my sign-in sheets. It's like I don't have the address on them, and I don't have anybody's notes. I don't know what they want, but I do have names, right? So yeah.
I love that. I feel like we've had a couple of conversations about open houses, and I know there's back and forth. Not every open house is a perfect magical experience. But from talking with other agents, a lot of them seem frustrated or unsure where to start. So what are the daily or weekly habits you'd recommend for an agent who wants to maximize the return on their open houses, starting from maybe like 2 weeks before? Or what timing do you pay attention to?
Consistency. That's it. So on Monday, if I don't have a house on the market that I'm holding open over the weekend, I'm actually finding one to hold open on Monday. Monday is my day, my planning day for the weekend. I'm online. I'm looking at new listings. I'm looking at coming soons. I highly recommend attending home tours, because that's where you meet the listing agents in person. So if you're a new agent, you should be looking up every single home tour in your area and attending them so you can meet all the listing agents, because it's so great to meet the listing agents in your brokerage, or if you're allowed to hold open houses outside of your own brokerage, it's great to meet those agents and say, hey, I'm an open house agent. I do open houses every weekend. If you have a new house come up that you need help with, here's my card. Let me know. And you would be surprised. I mean, for like a year, I didn't have to find an open house for like a year, because I had agents that were so not only impressed with how I did their open house, the minute they had a house come on the market, they would call me and say, hey, would you like to do this house? I have a house coming on the market. My client wants an open house and I'm going out of town. I get that all the time. They trust me with an occupied home, right? Because of how I run my open house and how professional I am. And that is where you want to get to, is you want people calling you saying, I have a new house coming on the market. Would you hold it open for me? But also just mainly planning. And I can't emphasize more consistency. Even me, if I don't do an open house for a month, and I've been doing them for a very long time, the one that I do, I don't flow as well. You know what I mean? It's not as comfortable. Whereas if I'm doing them every weekend, man, oh my gosh, I am so on the ball. I got my conversations going. My confidence is up. My everything. It's just a different feeling. So when it comes to preparation, I mean, it's like the thing is consistency and finding the open house in the beginning of the week. You want the hottest ones, right? And making sure that there aren't 100 open houses that have already been held. I think the biggest mistake, which is why agents don't like open houses, especially new open house or new agents that try and they're like, open houses don't work. You know, it's because an agent in their office will come to them and say, hey, I have a listing. Would you like to hold it open this weekend? And they go, oh yeah, I'd love to. Right. And then they get there, nobody comes in because it's actually been held open 18 times in the last 18 days. Right. And they wonder why nobody comes in. So that's an open house that I would never take the opportunity to hold open, unless it was my listing and my client was saying you need to hold it open. But even then I have an argument for that, because if nobody's coming in, that's actually deflating to my client, right? Because now they're going to say, how'd the open house go? And I'm going to say, nobody came in again because I've had too many open houses on it, right? And that's going to make who look bad? That's going to make me look bad, because my marketing isn't good, right? So they're going to blame it on me. Well, what's going on with your marketing? Why isn't anybody coming in? So there's reasons why you don't want to hold an open house every weekend. And as a new agent, I don't want to hold an open house on a house that's kind of been on the market a long time, unless it has a price reduction or it just came back on the market, right? There has to be some sort of a change. There has to be a change to it. So.
And tell me a little bit more about your app, especially for agents who may be less tech savvy or resistant to change. What advice or steps do you give them so they can adopt this kind of app without feeling overwhelmed?
It's so easy. It's so easy. It took me a long time to make it simple, right? It was complicated. Now it's really simple. You add the listing, you add the open house event, you open up your phone, and now you have a handheld way to check people in. It's a first name, a last name, and a phone number. And the phone number will text the guest a code, so you know that the number, not only do you know the number is real, but you know that they can receive text messages. Because a lot of people come in, oh, that's my landline. Well, I actually need your mobile phone, right? Mm-hmm. So, and then I get that, and then it opens up a notepad, right? So now I can give them a flyer. I can have a really casual conversation with them at the door. And then I can let them walk around the house. And as they're walking around, I'm taking immediate notes on them. And then it's done. Like, it's that easy. I mean, and then our next guest. So I can, and what's great about it is which I would really encourage for open houses that are going to be really busy, is I always have a check-in assistant. I always tell them to have a check-in assistant at the door. So if you have a check-in assistant at the door, and I have a lot of homes that are really big that are on the market that are like sprawling, right? So if I'm in the backyard with an open house guest and I get another visitor at the door and I have a check-in assistant there, I will get a notification on my phone that I have a new visitor. So I'll be able to walk in and I'll be like, I'll be right back. I have a new guest. And I walk outside, or I'll be right back. And then I greet the visitor. They're already checked in. I don't need to get their information. I already know their name because it popped up on my phone. And then I greet them, and then I ask them a little bit about it. Here's a tour. Let me know if you have any questions. And then I can go back to my other guests, right? And I
seamless.
note on them. Very seamless and very easy. And it's all on your phone, or if you have an iPad, it's on an iPad, but it's handheld. You don't want to, shift the direction. So
as you look ahead, where do you see the open house experience evolving over the next 3 to 5 years, especially when tools like yours, AI, virtual reality, even just the virtual tours, as those things are coming out and being refined and perfected, where do you see that going for residential agents?
I think open houses have been around for 120 years. The actual first open house was in 1905, right? And they haven't gone away, because we're not selling something on Amazon. We're selling a house, and a house, a lot of things will sell a house, right? How it feels, how it smells, how the floor plan flows, the natural light that comes in. There's so much about a house that you can't see online. And I think open houses are only going to become more popular because of AI, because now we're going to have all these features that can make a house look a lot better than it is. And I have people that come into my open house that actually found it online, and believe it or not, I get a lot of people that say, wow, this house is a lot prettier in person than it is online. And they're like, I'm glad we came in. I've had people that are looking for a 3-bedroom that saw my open house signs, and it only has like a 2-bedroom and a den, but they can't search that online, right? There's a lot of things that our search criteria online is so limited that it's never going to replace buyers wanting to go out and look at open houses. And the thing about open houses and why they sell is online, just because of that, because I can't refine my search online to exactly what I want. Right. Yeah. So I can kind of refine it a little bit. But what happens if you're in a market with high inventory, the buyer's going to refine it so tight, because otherwise they have 1,100 homes, right? They're like, oh, well, maybe we'll take this tighter and we'll do this. And now they lost your house because it didn't show up in their search. Right. And even as a buyer agent, I encourage my buyers to go out to open houses without me, because if they see a house I didn't find, there's so much online, especially as a buyer agent, how I add value is I look at everything available and I send my clients 10 homes, right? I can't send them 55 homes to look at. Otherwise, that is just overwhelming to everybody. So it's my job as an agent to get to know what they're looking for and choose that 10, right? And if I miss the 11th or 12th house that they happen to find at an open house and they call me, that's great. I want them to go around, look at, because I can't. And I tell them all the time, I encourage them to do that, because I tell them I can't find everything. Even with me, it's very hard. You can't search a floor plan. You can't search natural light. You can't search. There are so many things you can't search, right?
Yeah.
And open houses are the way that they can do that. And so I really don't think they're ever going away. Mm-hmm.
As a closing thought for an agent listening today who hasn't embraced the open house or the open house app yet, what's one shift in mindset or action you would say that will help them move the needle the most in the next 90 days?
54% of buyers are now using open houses in their home search in some way. So whether they have an agent or not, and so if you're a listing agent, having an open house is so important now more than ever, especially with that number going up so high, that we have a lot of sellers that won't allow us to have an open house, but they would allow 8 showings on a Saturday, right? And why is that? Because the 8 showings supposedly are with a licensed agent, and they know who's coming in the door. So I present it to my clients the same way as like, if you're going to allow 8 showings on a Saturday, why wouldn't you allow me to have an open house with all the buyers that don't have agents? We have to open our house, especially now with our buyers. A lot of buyers are confused with the new like contract they have to sign. And they're very wary about that. They're like, I'm just going to go do it on my own. I've seen this more this year than I have ever, where buyers are coming in going, oh, we're just going to look at open houses. That's how we're going to find our house. Well, we're not going to hire an agent. And I tell them, well, then you're missing 90% of the houses. And they don't realize, our consumers don't realize that all the homes aren't open, right? They don't realize that they're missing 90%, that literally only 10% of the homes are ever held open on a weekend. And so I encourage agents to embrace a technology that allows them to run an open house exactly like a day of showings. And they need to explain that to their clients that are hesitant to having an open house, because I literally have sold more houses this year at open houses than I have in the past 10 years. It's been a crazy year for that.
Yeah. No, that sounds amazing. And thank you so much for joining us today, Shannon. I've loved getting to talk with you and getting to hear more about the open house experience. Thank you for everybody that joined in and was listening, and we hope to see you next week.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. See ya. Bye.